guys, welcome back to another episode of Beyond Bathroom Blues podcast, and today I want to dive in to explain how I eliminated probably about 97%, if not more, of my IBS symptoms such as bloating, gas, obviously wind, diarrhea, stomach pains and cramps, lethargy, sleepless nights, all that rolled into one. How I got rid of 97%, if not more, on occasions 100% of those issues, without any stupid crazy fad diets, without going on these just unworkable systems or taking loads of supplements and medications and just waiting for endless doctor's appointments and constantly just trying things that are not working in just a handful of weeks. I'm going to explain that to you all today. Hopefully some of you will be able to relate to it, and maybe, my hope with this podcast is, if you're listening to this or if you're watching this on YouTube, that you potentially are in a position that I was in many, many years ago. That what I see and what Charlie Jim we hear, a lot of men are stuck in like a cycle. You just get caught in this vicious circle, this vicious cycle of, IBS symptoms, trying this, trying that. Things are not working. You lose hope in yourself. You lose hope in the system, the healthcare system, and all this stuff starts to happen in your mind. And we kind of just stay stuck and don't really get the outcome that we're after. We don't then reduce those symptoms, eliminate those symptoms, but more than just getting the symptoms eliminated, but go on to have, do things in life that are fulfilling, whether that's in fitness and you want to run ultras or marathons, or even just go to the gym without breaking wind and stinking the place out. That we can do all those things, that we can take as kids out, we can go camping, we can go on holidays, confidently book those holidays without worrying and having that anxiety attached to it of, if we're going to get symptoms, where's the toilet, is it going to be this, is this going to happen, is that going to happen? And then more often than not, when you do try and do something, things happen, things ruin the day, whether you're at a restaurant, etc. You know where I'm coming from. So my hope is today that by sharing my story with you and the journey that I went on many, many years ago, and the kind of epiphanies that I had, the breakthroughs, and it might help you move forwards. It might give you something, a breakthrough moment in your own life, in your own mind, with what you've been trying to be like, right, yeah, I've not done that, or I didn't think, or I didn't see it that way. Because that's what happens, isn't it? Often there's a saying, isn't it? When we're inside a jam jar, and we're locked inside a jam jar, the lid's on tight, we can't read the label on the outside. It's impossible, isn't it? And that's, it's obviously the metaphor where a lot of times, and that was me, many, many years ago, I was in that jam jar. I was stuck inside that jar, IBS symptoms, not being able to do things with my kids on a weekend. If I did do things with my kids on a weekend, stuff would get ruined, or certainly would get, I'd be limited to what I could do because of my irritable bowel syndrome, diarrhea, it was horrible. And then when I was single, when I got divorced the first time, I was single for a period of time, not really feeling attractive, not having that confidence to go and find somebody else initially because of my bloating, looking really like a swollen stomach when usually I look really lean. Just all these things, and they just all mount up into one, don't they? And it really, really affects not just your body, but your mindset as well, and your life moving forwards. So I'm going to share that with you, and hopefully you can resonate to, hopefully give you what life looks like on the outside of the jar, is what I'm trying to say. So if you're stuck inside the jar like I was, this is me now on the outside reading the label to you from there, so you can be like, and I'll share that with you, who came along and helped me have my breakthroughs in my life to get to where I am today with pretty much IBS symptom free. And I'll share that with you as well, what that looks like. So without further ado, let's dive in. I want to roll back first of all, because I feel like I need to sort of take you on the journey. Not in too much depth, obviously. I don't want to waste either of our time today and just go on and on and on about stuff that's not really important. But I need to just sort of lay the foundation. So travel back in time to, and I don't know how old you are, but you probably can remember in 2002, things started to heat up with the United Kingdom, United States, and various other countries, and Iraq with Saddam Hussein. And in 2003, I deployed with my battalion, at the time Duke of Wellington's regiment. We deployed to Kuwait with the American Army, and we stationed out in Kuwait, and then we obviously got involved with the Iraq conflict, the second Gulf War. Now, without going into obviously any detail about that, but during that time, we stayed in a town or a city, Azabaya, and when we were in Azabaya, lots and lots of soldiers, including myself, got a really, really severe case of diarrhea and vomiting. Really bad. Like, I mean, totally, like, there was blokes, you know, like pooing themselves, following through. It was horrible. They were just being sick. It was really, really bad. And it just seemed to go through everybody, like DMV does. It just spreads like wildfire. And I had that for about a week. Even though I was a section commander and I was in charge of seven of the soldiers to go out on patrol and do things, I was written off. You know, I was still doing bits and pieces, but I couldn't really leave camp. I was, you know, laid on my camp bed, feeling sorry for myself with this horrible stuff going on. Prior to this, prior to 2003 and prior to going to Iraq, I have never, and I don't know how old I was back then. I was in my maybe mid 20s, maybe late 20s. But before then, I've never had any issues with my gut, with my stomach. Never. So I've never, you know, had certainly any bloating, stomach pains, diarrhea, you know, flatulence, and really, you know, constant flatulence that stinks. None of that used to happen. But once I went out there, it was just DMV, and obviously there is a lot of studies now. There is some evidence to suggest that IBS can start after you've had a severe, you know, stomach issue such as diarrhea and vomiting. So with that in mind, from that point moving forward, I mean, I was okay initially. I got back from Iraq, so, you know, sort of summertime 2003, and then moving forward from that point on, things started to get increasingly worse. Not too bad straight away, but, you know, slowly but surely, things over the years coming, things started to get worse in terms of my symptoms. And maybe I'll say, maybe you can think back to a time if you've not had it all your life, because some people have had IBS all their life. They've had it from childhood, unfortunately, but not everybody. I think in most cases, you can identify a time in your life where you started to get IBS, just for your own peace of mind, really, because a lot of people think, oh, how has this happened? And even though there's no solid evidence to sort of indicate it definitely happens because of A, B, and C, there is obviously some that suggest things like I've just mentioned with DNV, you know, a really bad gastro problem down there, or trauma as well, you know, a traumatic event. If you've had a trauma, you might have been in a car accident, you might have been like me in the military and seen some horrific stuff on operations and had maybe some PTSD. Maybe a sudden change in your life has really threw you, whether it's financially, emotionally, with a relationship. And from that point moving forward, you've had IBS, you've had symptoms. Maybe that's happening now. Okay, so just because it is, I think we all like to know or have an idea of why things start, don't we? I think you'll agree. So for me, it was that point moving forwards, and I didn't know. I mean, we're going back to 2003. I'd never heard of anything. I mean, you know, all these buzzwords that are flying around now, like gluten-free, low FODMAP process, you know, low FODMAP diet, food diaries, all these things that we now hear quite a lot of in the IBS world were alien back then. And I wasn't looking anyway, so I guess, you know, if you're not looking for the information, you don't really find it, do you? So it was very, very strange for me coming back from there. I started to get like quite a lot of flatulence, a bit of bloating from time to time. And as I said, that was 2003. It's 2000 and, you know, rolling forward 2007, 2008. Definitely now things were starting to get really bad. To the point where certain days I've booked off at work, thankfully being in the military, and I was a good soldier, I was a good operator. So in terms of going up through the ranks, it did affect me a little bit, but the army is quite lenient, the British Army, and I think maybe the American Army and stuff is the same as well, where if you have time off, you know, with an illness or a medical condition, you get paid, that, you know, you're not going to get sacked. They're very, very, very lenient in the British Army. But in terms of having time off work, I've been there, but it wasn't really a concern of mine then on if I was going to lose my job or not. What was a concern, though, was being unable to be fit enough, because I've always been fit in terms of physical fitness, and being able to produce the outcome to be promoted in line with my peers, or at least even beat my peer group, because it's all competition in the army, isn't it? Like anywhere, if you're in a employment, we all want to do well as a man, as a professional man. We want to do well. We want to earn more money. We want to be more, do more, and earn more. Yeah. So it did affect my, I guess, it put a kink in my armour in that respect in a lot of areas. Now, moving forwards with that, then, you know, my symptoms used to get in the way of stuff. I mean, I've been on runs before, and I've had to dive in bushes to the point where, and I was trying to manage it. So back then, I'd not had a diagnosis. This is why I'm so, you know, kicking myself now, looking back. It's not a regret. And it's kind of like if I could travel back in time, if I could, it's the classic, if I could go back and tell myself a few things now, what would that be? And that's why I'm sharing this video, because this is like me reading, I'm now reading the label on the jar from the outside to me being on the inside and saying, right, first thing you need to do, go get a diagnosis straight away. Don't mess around. Get to the doctors, yeah, and just talk about your symptoms, what you're experiencing, maybe whatever you've tried until now, if you're taking any painkillers, etc. Just have that chat with them, get the blood test done, get this done, get that done, and find out what's going on. You know, rule out the fact, because I didn't know at the time, I'd never heard of bowel cancer or colon cancer back then. And let's get that ruled out and making sure that you haven't got that, because obviously you've got children, you've got, you know, family to think of and look after financially and emotionally. And then find out what is going on so you can take the right steps moving forward. So if you're listening to this and you haven't had a diagnosis, or you've self-diagnosed, you just believe that you've got IBS, please consider picking up the phone or whatever, going online and booking an appointment with your GP, with your medical doctor, and getting that diagnosis started now. And it's not a podcast about a diagnosis. We've done them previously. So again, dive into these podcasts. Again, on the podcast channel Beyond Bathroom Blues, and there's stuff on there about the diagnosis. And we've done ones about bowel cancer and colon cancer as well. Again, this is not what we're going to talk about today. Anyway, so I didn't do that. I was that guy. I'm that guy, like many, many men out there. And it wasn't until many years later that, you know, I was battling through it. I was trying different stuff. I mean, things that I tried now looking back is just like crazy why I did it. And yeah, so I at one point I was living on protein shakes. One, because I was into bodybuilding and training, but the other thing is, it seemed to me that when I had the protein shake, I didn't seem to get any symptoms. So I was like, winner, you know? And even with milk, I used to mix it with water and sometimes with milk, and I was okay. So I was like, this is all right. I feel good. I can go for a run. I'm not really having any accidents, whatever. I'll just have protein shakes, but that's not sustainable, is it? That's really bad. Not having like vegetables and solid foods and all the different food elements that are out there that I would have missed if I'd have kept that going. But I didn't, thankfully. Thankfully that I didn't do that. But for a big period of time, and some days, I was doing intermittent fasting, and then when I was eating, I was just having a protein shake. Not good. My energy levels were they were shot. You know, I was like literally zero energy. I was like, all the time. Just drinking loads of coffee to try and stay awake and try and get some I don't know, pretend energy back, which is not the way. It's not the way. You know, you can leave ourselves. I didn't know this at the time, but I could have left myself wide open for so many issues moving forward. So I'm glad that I didn't carry on in that lifestyle. But so many men I hear and I see that are out there are living that lifestyle. They are, you know, waking up in the morning having had poor sleep because of IBS, and then just patching the way through the day on coffee or, you know, caffeine tablets or whatever, and just eating the bare minimum, maybe fasting, like really doing loads of like fasts. And then when you do eat, it's maybe when you come home from work so you don't have symptoms at work, and it's not the way. It might work for a week or a month if you can get away, maybe if you can get away with it. But long term, that is so detrimental to your health and your well-being. There's so many consequences. There really is. So if that's you, I would ask you to consider to just stop what you're doing. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with, you've done it in the past. Let's not regret. You know, we've got to fail forward in life sometimes, and we either learn or we grow. There is no failure. We only fail if we quit. So if you quit trying to sort your IBS out, just totally quit and just carry on having symptoms and living your life and putting up with that. That's your decision, but that's where we fail, because you've quit. But if we don't quit, like, remember, life's a journey. Success is a journey, and we just keep going. We just keep trying the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. And eventually, if you're listening to this, you're in the right place. You'll come across somebody that knows what they're talking about, and they'll be able to give you that guidance towards getting the outcome that you're after. And you're like, at last. Like, I was stuck in the jar for so long. So hopefully that makes sense so far what I've said. So loads of drama throughout the years, issues at work, and I mean there was times where I was divorced. I was going through a really bad divorce, more trauma, and I've got 3 children. They're now grown up, and picking them up on a weekend. So that was my time with them. Was every second or third weekend in the month I could have my children over. Sometimes I'd finish work on a Friday. I'd have rubbish sleep all week, just really tired, trying to get through. My job was very busy at the time. I was really a senior non-commissioned officer in charge of live firing and explosives and teaching people how to train safely. So it was really busy time, loads of time out on the outdoors, physically and mentally demanding, to then get on a Friday and with all these symptoms that I've not got control over, and I've then got worried about travelling in my car to pick my kids up. I have a bit of anxiety. Is my ex-wife going to, flipping have an argument with me at the door again and start swearing? Just all these things, and I start having flare-up. I start feeling rubbish. And that would affect my mood. It would affect the weekend, and I'd be really snappy at my children. And yeah, anyway, if that's you as well, we've got to draw that line in the sand. And I wish I knew what I knew now then, because clearly I would have done things a lot differently, a lot differently, sooner as well, and I could have saved so much time, money and effort and energy moving forwards. We always teach things looking back, don't we, in life? But to help you out as well. So hopefully, maybe you can resonate with that. Maybe you're going through the same situation as that you've got your kids. Maybe you're struggling and you're married, at home, a family man, and it's a grind. It is a grind when you've got diarrhea, constipation, bloating. You just feel low energy and tired all the time, or you can't plan things. You can't take your kids out. It's horrible. It is horrible. And then you've got your children learning off you, haven't you? Like my kids, like as a dad, you're like a mentor, a coach and a mentor, and it's like you're trying to mentor them through life, coach them in areas just to make them to grow up, to give them the best advantage in life, to give them the best possible outcome. And when you reduce to rubble and it's not being able to do stuff with them, and then what? And they're like, Dad, why are you always in the toilet? Or why? Oh, you're always farting and smelling, and trying to make light humour of it. But it hurts. It does inside. It does. It can be really hard. So that was what life was like. It was really pants looking back overall. I missed out on loads and loads of stuff, but you don't have to. That's the thing. And I don't miss out on anything anymore now, moving forwards. So what did I do? So in about 2000, so that was 2003, 10 years later, in 2013, blessed and grateful, because I was single for a while, and I'd been through a divorce in the past, and I was like, I'm just ready to give up on relationships, and who wants me anyway? I've got the windy, bloated stomach and whatnot. And I met an old friend of mine from the military. She, at the time, was in the army, was a chef, a combat chef, and had done about 11 years in the army, working as well with the Special Forces, the SAS. And I didn't know at the time, because our paths came together, and then we sort of went separate ways when we were friends in the army. And then many years later, we bumped into each other again. I was like, wow, awesome, how are you doing? This is mega big catch up. We ended up going out all day, blooming drinking, boozing, having a really good catch up, having a really good laugh. And we ended up getting married, having a little girl, dogs, house, family, amazing. Now, the reason I share that with you is not just to share like a romance story, is that I didn't know at the time, because last time I saw Charlie Jean, before I met her, she was in the military as a chef. So obviously during this catch-up, I now then, in 2013, find out that she was a registered dietitian with the NHS, National Health Service in the UK, Band 6, senior dietitian, helping people with all these gut issues at the time, inflammatory bowel disease, irritable bowel syndrome, cancers, you name it, all this stuff to help them with their nutritional requirements and various other bits and pieces. So very quickly, as we got to know each other and we lived together, she picked up on my symptoms. We chatted about them, and she said, you've got something, there's something going on there, because you shouldn't be having these symptoms. Have you had a diagnosis? I was like, well, no. So, what do you mean you haven't had a diagnosis? It could be, did you know you could have like bowel cancer, colon cancer? It's like, whoa, drop the scare tactics. There's enough. I've got 3 kids. Really? It's like, yeah, really. some of these symptoms are very similar to this, that, the other. Ah, okay. And more than that, if you don't know what it is, how can you treat it moving forwards? Yeah, that's a good point. Anyway, whatever, I was like, I'll go and get a diagnosis. As I said before earlier in the podcast and in the video, I was diagnosed with irritable bowel syndrome around about 2014, I think, give or take. So it wasn't long after I met Charlie Jean. So I come home, happy as Larry, I've got a diagnosis, clearly I'm happy, it's not cancer. I said to Charlie Jean, I said, look, what do I do now? She said, well, what do you want? I said, I don't want these symptoms. I don't want to have diarrhea like all the time or just at random times. I don't want to be sat on the toilet for ages. I don't want to, I'm sick of this bloating, you know, I want to look good. I want to have a fit, you know, look athletic because I train all the time and I eat healthy. I want to look the part as well, you know, rather than looking like I've swallowed an airball. I want to be able to do things without any limits, the limitations that IBS has on me, that dark cloud. I just want to get rid of all that. What, is it even possible? And she said, well, yeah, of course it is. I've helped thousands of people, men and women, to do what you're after. I was like, oh, okay. How long is this going to take? You know, surely this is going to take, and I'm ready for it. I mean, I've had this for 10, 11 years at this point, yeah? So I said, I think I remember saying something along the lines of, you know, how long is this going to take? Is it going to be like a few years? We're going to have to like, yeah, well, I'm ready for it. You know, IBS, there's no cure for IBS, so I've got it for life. So to manage it and fully get this nailed, what does that look like? 2-3 years? Well, no. If you want that, if you want me to help you and coach you one-on-one, because I lived with her, so I was lucky in that respect. I didn't have to go in any waiting list with the healthcare service. I was lucky. I said, well, yeah, I'm all in. I'm all in. Let's do it. Said, all right, well, it'll probably take you, if you're all in and you do things properly as I tell you, and you're committed to it, maybe we can get these symptoms out of the way in a few weeks, handful of weeks. I'm like, whoa, no way. I'm skeptical. Even with the girlfriend that I loved and trusted, and I've known her years, even I was skeptical. I was like, there's no way. I've had something 11 years, and I'm an intelligent guy, quote unquote, and I've tried all this stuff. I've spoke to people, various bits and pieces, but they said, yeah, but you didn't have a diagnosis, did you? No. Okay. So could it also be true then that the stuff that you had tried, you were just clutching at straws and it was just guesswork? Yeah, well, clearly that's true. Okay, so now that she said it along the lines of, now that you've got a diagnosis and we know that it's IBS, we can treat the issue for what it actually is. Could it be then true that if we treat the issue for what it actually is, with a proven system, with things that I know will work, that have worked for countless clients and patients, do you think you might get a similar outcome? If you commit to it and do I was like, well, yeah, why not? Why not me? You know, like, why can't I get the outcome? If all these other people, and I'm stacking up the evidence, all these other people have got this amazing outcome and are living their life IBS symptom free pretty much all the time. Not all the time, there's no cure, remember, to manage expectations. But yeah, why not me? So I said, let's do it. Let's just flip into it. Let's dive in. You tell me what I need to do, and I'm all in. And I'm thinking back now, it's just like mind-blowing, really, because in literally a space of about 3 to 4 weeks, thinking back, I had to do some reflect on it earlier. I was chatting to Charlie Jean this morning, saying, can you remember how long it took me? It was like less than a month to get all my symptoms. And I mean, at that point, and I'm not saying it's going to be the same for you, I'm just to put that caveat out there, because we are all different. Everybody's different. But for me personally, on my journey personally, all symptoms gone in 3 to 4 weeks. No diarrhea. My poo was back to normal, to be gross. My poo was back to normal, sausage shape. My bloating was gone. I was happy. I had my six-pack athletic body back in action. Yeah, not vanity, just feeling and looking good. My confidence was starting to get back. I was feeling fitter. I felt like I had more energy. I was sleeping better on a night time. You see all these things that people don't, you know, the positive consequences. Just in 3 to 4 weeks, I felt like a new person. I thought, this is amazing. I feel better in 3 to 4 weeks working with, this is what I said to her along the lines of working with you and doing this, what I'm doing with you, using your system, using your coaching. I feel better than I felt in years. And I feel more confident that I could do more things with more people than I have in years as well. Just in 3 to 4 weeks. Now, did I cure my IBS? No, because there is no cure. Did I have all my symptoms removed in 3 to 4 weeks? Yes. Did they stay fully removed moving forward? No. You're like, what? And this is where I feel a lot of people out there, false gurus, certainly charlatans, but also other health professionals, come along and they'll say, we'll get rid of all your symptoms forever. Well, no, that's not always the case. It could be if you stick to certain things and certain lifestyle choices. But more often than not, because you've got IBS for life, then you're going to get symptoms at some point. Yeah, of course you are. You might get stressed out about something moving forwards. You might have a death in the family and it really upsets you. And then your symptoms might flare up because it's not just what you eat, it's your mind as well. So just to manage expectations, and that's, so I'm not going to sit on this podcast, on this YouTube video and say, I got all my symptoms out of the way in 3 to 4 weeks and that's it. Woo! Happy days for the next 10 years. No. But what I did do is very, very quickly, in about the weeks following certainly, so in that 3 to 4 weeks and then a few weeks after that, so I'd say less than a couple of months, less than about 7 weeks, I knew, I think as near as, you might as well say, I know everyone says 99%, but it was most, if not all, of my food triggers. So I knew at that point, every food item out there, whether it was, drink, food, whatever, that I was putting in my mouth that was causing my stomach to react and give me diarrhea, bloating, stomach pain, stomach cramps, and all the other bits and pieces, keep me up at night, sleepless, this, that. And I knew that. Because I knew that, I had the men's IBS mastery blueprint. So I had my blueprint that was tailored, that was specific to me. So I knew, so if I gave that blueprint to, let's say, you and your IBS, it might work and you might get some benefit from it, but your triggers are probably going to be different to mine. Do you know what I mean? For example, I can just give you one example, a small nugget as an example. One of your triggers could be avocado. It might be, another one of your triggers could be onion. Okay, you could have onions and your stomach could go crazy. An avocado, stomach crazy. Now for me, I can eat avocados till the cows come home and I'm fine. See what I'm saying? Now for me, I can have a certain amount of onions, not loads, and I'm fine. But I know how much. So if I cook a meal, I know how much onion I can put in and garlic and other bits and pieces and can get away with to have no symptoms. So I still get to have a flavoursome, a really nice like homemade curry or I don't know, an Italian dish like a bolognese without getting symptoms. Whereas before, I didn't know any of that. I'd eat something and go crazy. I'd think it was bread or I'd think it was this and I'd think it was that, and it wasn't any of that. And this is what happens. So understanding that. So what happened then? So as I said before, and hopefully that makes sense, Charlie Jean basically, and that's the epiphany that I had, because I've tried everything in the past. I was like, so what I was missing really was at this point was a couple of things. Accountability, because she was my accountability partner. I lived with her. So I was constantly like checking in with her, having her there to ask questions, because trying stuff in the past, like you might have tried things like the low FODMAP diet, you might have worked with somebody and it didn't work. One of the things for me, and we're all different, but what we found works for our clients as well, is having an accountability, a professional, an expert that can not just hold you accountable and check in with you, but you can check in with them and say, I've flipping got a question about this. I don't really understand this part of the process to getting the outcome. I don't really understand it. Can you maybe explain it in layman's terms and break it down a bit further? And they're like, oh yeah, I get that now. Makes sense. And then we do it. So having that was a game changer. And then obviously being told what to do, as in, what to eat, what to avoid, this, that, the other, to create that blueprint. It's weird because I went from eating hardly anything, I was eating, but not really knowing what I was doing and missing this, missing that, and thinking that all this stuff was a nightmare, to actually, in a couple of months of after living with, working with Charlie Jean, that I could eat loads of stuff. I could eat, it's like my palate opened. I could eat more things. So that was the kind of things that for me personally was is having somebody there just to lean on in life. You know what it's like? It's important, isn't it? Whether we have a partner to lean on, somebody at work, like a mentor. Having a mentor moving forward in any area creates huge success. It gets us the outcome quicker in a shorter time, doesn't it? It's a shorter time, accelerated learning. And that for me was the game changer. So where am I at today? So compared to the past, my life changed dramatically in that handful of months. Did I, as I said before, just to pull it back slightly, did I sort all my symptoms out in the 3 to 4 weeks or 7 to 8 weeks? And was I then symptom free forever? And have I been symptom free since then? No. But when I have had symptoms, this is the thing to understand. It's been on my terms. Most of the time, it's been on my terms. Okay, what does that mean? It pretty much, and what does that mean to you? It means that once you've got your blueprint and you know your triggers specifically for you, what causes your IBS to flare up or cause drama, then you can decide. Like, for example, you might go Monday to Friday, meal prep, eating food around your blueprint, so you are symptom free all week at work, and then on Friday night you decide, I'm going to have Indian takeaway, I'm going to go out to a restaurant and have Italian, I'm going to have a pizza, whatever that looks like, that you know historically, because you've got your blueprint, you know that food will have ingredients inside it that is going to cause you diarrhea, bloating, stomach cramp, etc., and you might have a bit of a ropey night's sleep. You know that. So it's on your terms. You're in the driving seat. So you can say, right, I'm going to eat that. But because, here's the other thing, because you've been okay all week and not having flare up, which is what's happening now, and then when you eat something like the Indian takeaway, you're in bed, like I was in the past, you're laid on the couch, you're in bed, you feel like you need to go to accident and emergency and have your stomach ripped out. It's horrible. Because you've been okay a week, or maybe you wait 2 weeks, then when you have something that you know is going to cause you drama, not always, but 9 times out of 10, the symptoms that you get are going to be nowhere near as bad as what they were in the past. They're going to be mild at best. So it's doable. You see? So you can go and have like Christmas dinner and let your hair down a little bit. You can go out with the lads, have a few beers, maybe a kebab at the end of the night, or some takeout food. And yeah, you can be a little bit iffy the next day, but it's nowhere near as bad, and it's on your terms. That's what I mean. So I hope that makes sense. So you're still going to get symptoms, but it's going to be on your terms. Is symptoms going to come your way when it's not on your terms? Possibly, yeah, possibly. Things happen, don't they, in life? You might let your guard down. This is the other thing. Remember, if we don't use it, we lose it. You might get complacent with your blueprint. So you might know your specific triggers, but not really. And you've been feeling great for months and months and months. You're like, yeah, I feel good. And then you just start eating whatever. Then obviously expect things to start happening again, because there is no cure for IBS. You see? So it's moving forwards to getting what we call men's IBS mastery. So looking at that element there, to master it is having as little symptoms as possible, 97, 98, 99% symptom free, as much as possible all the time moving forward. Some days it might be 100%, some days, but not always. Yeah, some days might be a little bit less, a little bit more than 90-odd%. Okay, does that make sense? So, but the point is, you've got to look at where you're at now and how bad things are now. And if you compare that to what I've just said, how things could be moving forwards and what things could look like in terms of the percentage, it's a hell of a lot better. Okay, so that is what that looked like for me. Where am I at today? I can eat pretty much what I want in terms of, for me now, because it's been a long time, I don't walk around, with some blueprint anymore. I've got it written down in a journal somewhere, but because it's been so long, it's become habitual. So it's been my lifestyle. So I automatically know what things trigger my IBS. Do you know what I mean? But here's the thing, because for me personally, maybe not for you, but for me, when I do have stuff now that would have knocked me on my bum years and years ago, when I do have that meal now or whatever, it's nothing. It literally is nothing. I might get a little bit of wind, a tiny bit of diarrhea, not proper diarrhea, but a little bit looser than normal. I had bloating, was it last week? We went out for a meal. We went for an Indian restaurant. My son came down, he's 23, bless him. We all went out. It was his birthday in April, so we had like a delayed, because I've not seen him since then. Since his birthday, I've not seen him. So we said, look, for your birthday, when you come over, we'll go out to a really, really good Indian restaurant in York. Really good place. And we went crazy. We had, everything. Like starters, side dishes. And I didn't even contemplate this is going to cause me triggers or whatever. I just ate whatever. Do you know what I mean? Like, whatever, let's order whatever, let's go crazy. And let's eat loads and loads of nice, yummy food. And it was really, really good. And after that night, I started feeling a bit jippy when I got home. But the next day, I had a little bit of bloating, mild, and I was a bit loose. But do you see what I mean? It was on my terms. I knew it was going to happen. But the following day was a Sunday anyway, because that was a Saturday night. So Sunday, I knew I wasn't doing anything, so it was fine. So if things were bad, I wasn't really leaving the house. So it was on my terms. And I certainly wasn't going into work and going to miss anything, because then by Monday I was fine again. And that's what you could have as well. Does that make sense? So, as I said before, just to sort of finish off then and summarise, and the purpose of this today, you know, if anything, and I want to mention some key things that I've said throughout this, that for you moving forwards, if you've not had a diagnosis, if you've self-diagnosed, consider getting that diagnosis now, because you can't treat and you can't manage something and you don't know what it is medically. If you've had a diagnosis, or if you've been for one, let's say, and this is something else for you to consider, if you had a diagnosis for IBS and you have had one, but it was, say, 15 years ago, I would recommend speaking to your doctor and maybe going for a fresh diagnosis, because here's the thing, some guys do end up getting other stuff. You can have something else on top of IBS. Yeah, so you could have diverticulitis disease, you could have, obviously, and IBS, you might, who knows, you might end up getting IBD, you might end up getting something else. So it's worth, if you have been trying loads of different stuff and they've not worked, and it's been a long time since you had that diagnosis, if it was me, I would go get a fresh diagnosis, a new one. Just so you know, doubly confirm that it's nothing else. And also, clearly, without obviously trying to use any scare tactics, and I'm not, because I'm saying this because I genuinely care, especially if you're like me, you're a married man, you've got kids, you might have something else going on. Yeah, you could have bowel cancer, you don't want any of that going on. So it's better to catch it, you know, prevention is better than the cure, but obviously it's better to catch it sooner rather than later, so that you can have more lifespan. So yeah, that's that one about the diagnosis. We mentioned that. The other thing is, if you're trying loads of stuff on your own, here's the thing, people trying to sort their IBS out on their own, like I did all them years, it's the slow way. It's slow and painful. It takes forever, basically, and you never really know what's going on. And the reason why, and again, you don't know what you don't know, in my mind, is it's like a surgeon. You wouldn't go for surgery. You wouldn't do surgery on your arm if you had like golfer's elbow, or you pulled a tendon or whatever in your arm and it was really hurting for like ages, like really hurting. You couldn't really move your arm or do much with it at work, and it was your good arm. You're left-handed and it was your left arm. You wouldn't then go on YouTube or do some research or join a Facebook group that surgeons were in, buy some scalpel from Amazon, let's buy some surgical blades. Actually, let's buy a book as well on surgery, because you can buy them, I'm guessing, and let's get some chemicals to disinfect it and some stitches. I'm now going to, at home, watch a video, and I'm going to do self-surgery. We'll take some painkillers or get drunk, and then I'm going to cut my arm open and start to try and fix the tendons in my arm, and maybe just try and do it, just do a bodge job, see what happens. Well, it's not, it sounds stupid, you're listening to this going, well, no one would do that, would they? No one would do that. I'd go to doctors, go to the hospital, and have surgery, if that was what was recommended. And this is the thing, because we're going to the expert, we're going to the surgeon who has done a university degree, a master's, a PhD. He's then got experience, he's got time under the spotlight with the blades of doing surgery, you know, and if it's a specialist like a heart surgeon, they specialise on the heart. So they've spent, you know, 10, 15, 20 years doing nothing other than operating on people's hearts, making them better. And yet, with IBS, I know it's not as severe as that, thankfully, we just seem to miss that, don't we? We're like, we've been to the doctors, got the diagnosis, but then we sort of just go off on a tangent and just try everything ourselves. We just join Facebook groups and ask random people, and maybe try this, try that, breath test, hair test, food allergy test, let's do this, let's do that, but none of it works. None of it. It might do, and I'm not saying that if you listen to this and it's worked, amazing, amazing. But in most cases, it doesn't work. We still have symptoms, we still have unpredictable attacks and drama. Then, because we're just trying to do stuff ourselves, rather than missing the obvious thing that is, it's not obvious until you know it. Obviously, we sometimes can't see the wood through the trees. By going to the right person, the expert, the health professional, the registered dietitian, that has done the degrees, the masters, that's like the surgeon that has walked that path and has studied for years and years and years, and then got hands-on experience for years and years and years, and has tweaked it. Like with Charlie Jean, she spent years and years and years of fine tuning. Obviously, she just focuses on IBS, men's IBS, like the surgeon that just focuses on heart surgery or brain surgery. They specialise on that one area, even though they've trained to be a surgeon. They've specialised on that one area, and they've become an expert on the brain or the heart. Okay, that's why finding the right person is key. Finding the right person is key. So I mentioned that today. And when you find the right person, like, you know, when we get our clients, then you've got to lean into that coaching. Listen to them, have an open mind, try not to be skeptical. You are going to do it first, because I said before, that you've got to throw yourself in. And think to yourself, if other people have done it, if I've done it, you can do it. I'm telling you. if I can do it, you can do it. I'm sure you can. But you've got to be committed. You've got to want the outcome. You've got to want that transformation, and you've got to want to move forward with your life. You can get anything that you put your mind to with the right help, obviously. Remember as well, just to finish off, you can only fail if you quit. You can't fail if you don't quit. Okay, but there's got to be a line in the sand of how long you keep pushing it forward and kicking the can down the road in trying stuff that's maybe not working, maybe seeing people that are not really helpful. But that's fine. It's part of the journey. It really is, guys. It's part of the journey. And it's just taking ownership of that and going, you know what? No dramas. It's part of my journey. I've spent 8 years, 6 years, whatever, trying all this stuff. It's not really worked fully. I want an outcome here. I want to get fully sorted out. I want to know my symptoms and triggers so I can do, you know, be more, earn more, make more, whatever that looks like in life. And you've got this as well. Hopefully that helps. Take care. If you've got any questions, as I said before, if you're not in our Facebook group yet and you want to join a proper Facebook group that's not just full of whinging and whining and people just talking about random stuff that doesn't work, and you want to be around people that have got the outcome, and also you want to be maybe connected with me and Charlie Jean so that you can get the answers at the right time in the right place, then I invite you to pop along to IBS in Men. Search for it in Facebook. I'll put a link in the description. If you're on YouTube, just click our bio, and all our link tree is on there, and you can connect with us. There's loads of resources on there as well for you to dive into that will help you move forward if you approach it with the right mindset and the right attitude. Take care, guys. Lots of love and happiness and in good health moving forward. All the best.